Distillation, a purification method for separating the components of a liquid mixture based on boiling points through evaporation and condensation. Setup. Experiments in organic synthesis require pure reagents and solvents in each reaction. There are two types of distillation, simple and fractional. The difference between the two is the number of times a liquid is vaporized and condensed. A fractional distillation requires additional glassware and is useful to separate a mixture whose components have similar boiling points. To set up a simple distillation, you will need a hot plate and an oil bath, 2 round-bottom flasks, size dependent on the volume of solvent you are distilling, 1 with a stir bar, 2 clamps, Keck clips, grease, a drying agent to remove water, condenser, and a thermometer. A fractional distillation requires the use of a fractioning column. In a simple distillation, the solvent is heated to above its boiling point in order to convert the liquid to the gas phase. The gas is condensed by a water-jacketed condenser and collected in another flask. For a fractional distillation, the column is added in between the flask and the distillation head. For high boiling substances, tubing is attached to a vacuum in order to lower the boiling point. This is called a vacuum distillation. First, determine an appropriate distillation procedure. It is best to refer to the text "Purification of Laboratory Chemicals" available in the lab. For this demonstration, we will be distilling ethyl acetate according to the procedure provided. All glassware should be flame dried and the distillation head should be stored in the oven. First, gather all of your glassware. To the round-bottom flask equipped with a stir bar, add molecular sieves and the substance to be distilled. The flask should be 3/4 filled. Clamp this flask above the hot plate. Next, grease the joints of the distillation head. Dot 3 portions of grease near the top of each joint. Connect to another piece of glassware and twist to form a seal. Use Keck clamps for extra security. Connect water tubing to the faucet and to the top 2 inlets of the distillation head. The water flowing in should be connected to the lower inlet. The water flowing out into the sink drain should be connected to the top inlet. Submerge the distillation apparatus into the center of the oil bath so that the oil level and liquid level are equal. Make sure that the tubing is not touching the hot plate. Lastly, attach a greased thermometer to the female joint of the gas condenser. Lower the temperature probe into the oil bath slightly above the bottom of the oil. Slowly turn on the water. Heat the oil bath to the desired temperature, about 20 degrees above the boiling point. Monitor the distillation until you see a steady solvent drip into the collecting flask and the temperature of the thermometer is fixed. Foil should be added around the distillation setup to avoid the loss of heat. Be careful not to cover the condenser. Distill the liquid until the liquid level is just above the drying agent. Once the distillation is complete, raise the apparatus, turn off the hot plate, and let the flasks cool to room temperature. Remove the collecting flask and carefully remove the grease using hexanes and a Kim wipe. Remove a small sample to determine the purity of the substance by NMR. Immediately add additional drying agent, acetone, and parafilm the flask. Label the flask and store under an inner atmosphere using a nitrogen balloon. Discard the leftover solvent in the appropriate waste container. To remove the oil and grease, apply hexanes on a Kim wipe. Wash all glassware with soap and DI water and rinse with acetone. Store the distillation head in an oven.